man has never set foot on the moon. To make the whole world believe that man has set foot on the moon was actually a joint effort between NASA and the United States. The United States actually wanted to take over Russia, so in 1969, this drama of going to the moon was filmed in a secret film studio. Friends, such superstitions and conspiracy theories are famous all over the world. In America alone, there are millions of people who consider moon landing to be a lie. Such people not only consider this mission to be an American trick, but also raise objections to the clear evidence provided by NASA. For example, the movement of the American flag floating on the moon due to the wind, the inconsistency of the shadow seen in the pictures, the absence of stars on the surface of the moon, the survival of the Earth from the extremely dangerous radiation zone, etc. Friends, in this video, we will analyze these objections. On July 16, 1969, the Apollo 11 space mission from the Kennedy Space Center in the United States took 3 astronauts to the moon. A few days later, the shuttle touched the surface of the moon. Neil Armstrong was the first man to step on the surface of the moon and mark a new chapter in human history. Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collin were also on this mission with Neil Armstrong. Buzz Aldrin was the second man to touch the surface of the moon. Friends, where this historic event was praised all over the world and it was called a long leap for all of humanity, there were not few people who called this success a fake event. First of all, an American Navy officer, Bill Kissing, wrote a book in 1976, in which he raised objections to it. After that, in 1980, the Flat Earth Society called this whole mission a Walt Disney film and claimed that it was all filmed in a studio. Friends, as you know, controversies spread very quickly. So this is what happened, and these theories also spread all over the world. Millions of people began to believe that NASA and America had created a drama of going to the moon together. Friends, if we look at the moon from a different angle, we can see some irrefutable proofs which we can see with our own eyes, and we can believe that man has actually seen the moon. Let's take a look at some of these proofs. The first evidence of man's arrival on the moon is that when the Apollo 11 mission returned from the moon, it brought with it about 22 kilograms of lunar soil, stones, and particles for experiments. The following missions also brought a large number of such samples from there. Various experiments were carried out on these particles for a long time. The age of these samples was estimated in this survey, and it was proven that these samples of lunar soil can be 4.5 million years old, and these samples are not at all similar to the soil of our Earth. These thousands of samples are still present in the Lunar Sample Laboratory of Houston, while researchers from various universities have also been given access to these samples for research. The second proof of going to the moon is that when the Apollo 11, Apollo 14, and Apollo 15 missions began to return from the lunar surface, the astronauts had installed retroreflectors on the lunar surface. Similar devices were also installed by the Soviet Union's robotic missions Luna 17 and Luna 21 in 1970 and 1973. Friends, this device was actually a high-resolution mirror that reflects the image sent from the Earth. It's just like if you put a mirror far away and throw light at it from a distance, that light will reflect from it and come back to you or go in the same angle in the other direction. Today, with the help of these retroreflectors on the moon, we measure the distance between the moon and the Earth. It is still observed in various parks on the Earth and is an entertainment for people. Friends, the third big proof of landing on the moon is that 6 successful missions were landed on the moon from 1969 to 1972. All these missions landed on different locations on the moon. The astronauts stayed there for several hours and traveled on different private vehicles to check the surface of the moon. The marks of the wheels of these vehicles are still present at all those locations. And if you have a good binocular, you can see the marks of these vehicles and wheels from the surface of the Earth. However, a very powerful binocular is required to see them because it is not clearly visible a few feet above the surface of the moon. Friends, despite these evidences, there are various objections to NASA's claims of landing on the moon. Let's take a look at these objections and the answers given by NASA. The first objection is that there is no concept of water and air on the moon. Then how and why was the American flag flying there? Those who object say that this proves that where the flag was being placed, there is air, otherwise the flag should have been bent down. The answer to this objection is that all the missions that NASA sent to the moon, the flags that were placed there were specially prepared, which are seen floating. If you look closely, you can see that a rod is visible on the top of the flag, i.e. a wire or wooden rod was used to keep the flag straight, and the reason for the bulge in the flag is said to be that while placing it, the clawba could not completely straighten this rod, i.e. could not keep it open to the outside, due to which there was a slight bulge in the flag, and since there is no air there, the bulge remained there and it did not float. Friends, the second objection is that if there is no atmosphere of the moon, there is no possibility of clouds and dust, but in spite of this, no stars are visible in the sky in any of the pictures taken there, although the stars should be visible on the surface of the moon. The answer to this objection is that since all these pictures are of daytime, the sun's light was colliding with the surface of the moon without any obstacle. With this light, the clothes of the objects present there were being reflected. It can be understood that if you suddenly light a bulb in the dark, you will not immediately see the shining stars in the sky. The second thing is that the cameras of that time were not so powerful that they could capture the stars in the sunlight. Friends, the third objection is that the shadows of the pictures clicked by the artists and the shadows of the things present there are quite different and they do not seem uniform. It feels like there was not only one light of the sun, but there was a lot of light of the lights, due to which the shadows fell at different angles. The answer to this objection is quite simple, that if you are in a dark place, then if you look at the shadow of your shadow and the shadow of something else present there, then there will be a clear difference in both the shadows. The picture of the moon, in which the shadows of different things do not seem to be the same, is also the reason that those things are not at the same height, because the surface of the moon is dark. You can also experience this on the ground. The fourth objection is that there is a circle of Van Allen radiations around the Earth. This magnetic zone prevents the dangerous rays of the sun from reaching the Earth. According to science, no living being can live in this zone, so how did the astronomers cross this zone? This is one of the impossibilities. There is no doubt that there are radiations around the Earth and no living being can survive in it. But the answer to this objection is that the Apollo mission passed through these magnetic rays so quickly that no human being was affected. This can be explained by the following example, that if a fire is burning somewhere and you pass through it quickly and the fire is not too far away, it will not affect you. Yes, if you stop in it, it will burn you. The fifth objection is that if NASA could have gone to the moon 50 years ago, why doesn't it go to the moon after so much technology has been developed? The objectioners say that NASA does not do this because today, due to the increase in technology, their deception will be caught immediately. The answer to this objection is that from 1968 to 1972, 7 missions were sent from NASA, of which 6 missions landed successfully on the moon. There is no doubt that it was the era of the space war between the United States and Russia that who goes to space first and goes to the moon. The war to go to space first was won by Russia, and the war to go to the moon was won by the United States. So after winning the race to go to the moon, the United States did not have the opportunity to spend billions of dollars and go to the moon again. The second answer to this is that NASA is currently investing funds in the research of other planets and Mars, while it has already announced that it will go to the moon. And there is a formal planning to make it a colony, which you can see a lot of research on NASA's website. Friends, apart from all these objections and their answers, there are some things that prove that man has landed on the moon. As everyone knows that this race to reach the moon was between Russia and the United States. In fact, the Soviet Union had already experienced sending man in space before the United States. If we look at it this way, then Soviet Russia should have been the biggest opponent of this operation in the United States at that time. And if this operation of landing on the moon was a fraud, then the biggest objection would have been on the part of Russia. But this is not the case at all. In fact, it is said that there were some places in the Soviet Union where there was no permission to see the live coverage of Apollo 11 landing. That is, they did not want people living in Soviet Russia to see the success of the United States. In this way, another thing that is very important is that about 400,000 people worked together on the Apollo mission. And it is not possible at all that so many people are involved in a fraud, and no one has been able to reveal this secret so far. It is very difficult to include millions of people in a fraud and to send a mission to the moon. Friends, did humans really go to the moon, or was it all a drama created by NASA and the United States? What do you think about it? What do you think? Is it possible to hide such a big fraud in this era of technology? Do give us your opinion in the comments. Thank you.